Hello, my powerful people, and welcome back to my channel, Purple RX. It's your girl, Renata, your friendly and resourceful PharmD. I know it's been a while. I actually had the vid. So for about a good 10 days, it's not a laughing matter, I contracted COVID. I'm not sure exactly where or exactly when, but because they usually say even 2 or 3, even if you feel the symptoms, you should wait like 3 or 4 days before you actually take a test because it could be COVID or it may not show up. So I want to say around end of April, beginning of May is when I caught it. And thank God I didn't have such a intense case. I didn't have to go to any emergency room. Thank God for that. I didn't have to go. All I did really was be at home, hydrate. I had a lot of fatigue. I'm going to tell you that. Some nausea and vomiting. So I did have to get some IV hydration in order for me to really recover and to be at my best. So I haven't been around because I had that little incident to go through, and I had to make sure to get my 2 COVID tests to make sure I was negative. At the end, you have to have 2 tests back to back to make sure one's not a false negative. And at that point, I think it was probably about May 9th, Mother's Day, I found out that I was now negative. And I probably didn't have it the whole 10 days because it was like the Wednesday before, not the Wednesday before, but I want to say it was May 2nd is when I really caught it and took the first test. So if May 2nd I took the test, which was the Sunday before, if I'm not mistaken, then the Wednesday before that was when I actually went down. And I kind of I had a lot of fatigue. I was achy. It wasn't as bad as I've had for the flu, but everybody experiences this thing differently. And it was a blessing and a curse because I got to see what some people experience, what some people go through. It wasn't something I wanted to catch, but at this point, the way it's going around and the way it's acting, it's going to be the next flu. And so it was, in my condition, it wasn't the best thing to have, and it wasn't something that I really wanted to catch. But again, I'm in the house most of the time, or I'm out running some errands, going to the store. So I could have caught it from somebody at a grocery store or anywhere. So I just wanted to give you a little update. I also in that time, so I took a week off and was recovering because I was still a little weak afterwards. It probably took me maybe a few extra days to get back to who I am normally. And I actually didn't have any shortness of breath, but they were like, if you get any of that, then you need to go to the hospital. If you don't, you're good. Even the people, I just had an appointment today and they were like, everything looks great. Everything's up to par. Nothing has happened. Your levels are good and your kidney's going for a great function. So after that, it wasn't like I said, it wasn't the best experience. It wasn't the greatest experience. Being sick and being down like that is not fun, but it was an experience nonetheless. And that kind of had a setback on what I was doing because I was supposed to do five videos that week. And that Wednesday, which was Weed Wednesday, I was done. Well, today I've added a new segment. We're going to talk about Mineral Mondays. Minerals are important for our body. A lot of them not a lot of them, some of them don't get enough attention, or they get a wrong kind of attention, or they're not explained in the proper way that's needed. One of those is sodium. Sodium always gets a bad name. No salt, don't have this, don't have that, don't do this. You're eating too much salt. Sodium is necessary. It is necessary electrolyte that our bodies need. They need it to transmit nerve impulses, to contract muscle fibers and relax those muscle fibers in the heart, in your blood vessels, in all of those places, and maintain proper fluid balance. So dehydration and hydration, sodium is needed for that. What have I said before? Where salt goes, water's good to go. So when we talk about sodium and salts, people know salt or table salt or even pink Himalayan or sea salt is sodium chloride. So those 2 elements are together to make salt. And in those 2 elements of sodium chloride, 40% of that is actually sodium. So 40% of the whole sodium chloride makeup is sodium. So that's where you get that sodium part from. And most of it in America, we get a lot of sodium, but we don't get a lot of sodium from actual table salts. So one thing to point out is there also are diseases that come with, or that can cause hyponatremia or low sodium. Some people, there is not an exact, how would I say, there's not an exact amount of salt or sodium that it says that your body exactly has to have to function, because, or it has to be perfectly at this level. There's a level to not go above, but as in low, everybody's body is not the same. We can generalize and say, this is the amount you need to have. This isn't the amount you need to have. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be doing that. This is what you need to do. And this works for so many people, but everybody's body is different. Some people's body is more sensitive to salt. Some people's body is less sensitive to salt, and they can pour on extra salt and it affects them, but it might take longer to affect them. So think about this. I think they're the Momo people of Amazon. They only take like 200 milligrams a day of sodium in. So they're surviving on 200 milligrams a day alone. So sodium is necessary, but maybe not as much. Now, Americans, our salt intake can be a little bit ridiculous. On average, they say the salt intake of Americans is 3,400 milligrams. That is a big difference from those people of the Amazon. And that can be a lot. There's a lot of people having an excess of sodium. There are some people that you're going to interact that may have low sodium. So sometimes in my instance, I may get low sodium because I get dehydration at times. Maybe I've given myself enough water and then I go outside and I sweat, or I do a HIIT workout and I lose a lot of electrolytes. So electrolytes are important for me and for some other people to make sure that their full hydration is that they're fully hydrated. So low sodium, it's usually based off chemical or a hormone signal, and your kidneys or sweat glands are told to hold the water, hold the sodium. So those things are held in, and they're not put out because maybe you've been vomiting, you've had nausea, burn patients, heart failure, in Addison's disease. Those are causes of low sodium. Diarrhea, liver disease. A lot of diseases are going to be the cause of more low sodium because they're either getting diuretics and you're trying to get all that fluid off. So when water goes, that sodium's going to go too. They're like homies. They stay together. So those are just things that we look for. And when you have low sodium, a lot of people, they don't really look at hyponatremia. Some do. And maybe it's become more prevalent where people drinking so much water or doing trends. Sometimes trends seem to affect people in the market, and they find newer things because people are wanting to get into a trend like, I have to drink so much, and they drink so much but don't have the same output or don't have the output to match how much they drink. And so when you're having a low sodium situation, what does that look like? A lot of people become tired, sluggish, your brain activity is affected. You have muscle twitches. People can go into a coma. They can pass out. They can have seizures. So your body is this machine that wants to be balanced. And when I say balanced, I don't mean perfectly it has to have this amount and perfectly it has to have that amount, or your body's going to know. It just needs to have a homeostatic flow. So, okay, you gave a little bit less today, I can adjust. You had a little bit more, I can adjust that too. Your body has a natural way of adjusting. It's just when we get into extremes, it doesn't have the time to catch up and be like, I can adjust to this. Sometimes it can. It's like, there's too much going on. There's too much coming at me. I can't adjust fast enough for this. Too much is gone. That's just like people getting it with dehydration or diarrhea. In a situation where diarrhea, where every time you drink or eat something, you're losing it in your stool and your stool is loose, you're losing water in that stool. So your body is having a hard time making that up. And that's when you would need hydration. And you go to the hospital, and most of the time you're getting sodium chloride hydration. So now, most of America, like I said, and this is a lot, and not just America, but people in the Caribbean, people in a lot of especially African American, this is prevalent within our community. And it is prevalent because of access to things that we don't have. This all has to do with things we are taught, things we have access to, and the only way we know and what we had. Like, think about the certain foods that we were given, smoked meats and meats that were ham hocks, hog maw, all those things that we got and we put in greens and we put in this and we put in that. Those were things that we just took the scraps and we made a meal. And it also had to do with what access we have now. In a lot of neighborhoods of blacks and browns, you don't get access to have pink Himalayan salt, or you don't get access to less processed food, or get the option, or get shown the option, or those options are always around you or in your face or teaching you that. So in the community, especially in blacks and Caribbeans, and like I said, in the brown community, you are going to see that. You're going to see excess sodium and people having the silent killer, which is high blood pressure, and people having issues of those, because with excess sodium in your bloodstream is going to be like, okay, I need more water, because the sodium water balance is something that your body needs. Where sodium goes, water's going to go. So water's going to be like, sodium's going to be like, come on in, water, come on in. So they're going to all be in the bloodstream, and your heart is pumping that blood. And as it gets more and more volume, and the volume becomes greater, your heart is having to do a whole lot more work. So it's like, so one beat, so it's like boom, boom. That makes it go around in your body. I think it's one full time, or at least go to your lungs and then come out and then go in one reverse. Like, so it's like a scale that goes boom, 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 boom. And anyway, my hands aren't really good at doing that. I should put a picture up. Maybe I'll add one if I can find one. If I can find a diagram. But anyway, so your blood and your heart is trying to pump all of that volume. So that means it has a lot more work to do, but it doesn't get any bigger, or over time it may, but it's not getting any bigger, and it's trying to do more work because your body is saying, I got too much sodium in my bloodstream. Let's go. Water, where are you? Let's pump this out. Let's get this work done. I need you to come in and help me out. So you're stretching out the walls of your blood vessels. Over time, you're increasing your blood pressure, which can lead, and then you can end up leading to build up plaques in your arteries. That can lead to sometimes how congestive heart failure comes, because your heart is doing all this work and just beating so much. And it's just like your heart is from 0 to 100, and it's on 100 for day after day after day after month after year. And when it's having to do that work, it's a silent killer, because a lot of people don't know what's going on in my body at this moment. So that's why regular doctor's appointments or regular blood pressure checks are important, because those are things that are necessary to see and to regularly check up on those things, and the things that we don't know or we can't always feel. I know over time, if your blood pressure gets so high, some people come up dizzy. Some people come up lightheaded or weak. But that is usually when you're in a dire moment. I didn't get any symptoms till my blood pressure is, 150 over like 95 or something like that. When I was in stage renal, that's when I really felt the symptoms. I was dizzy, I was weak, I was tired. Plus, I didn't eat that much because I didn't have the urge to. So, excess sodium, it can do a lot more than we think. Also, when you have salty foods, think about this. Are you reaching for water? Most people are reaching for a sweet drink, fruit punch, something like that. Most people have been programmed sweet and salty and sweet, to get that taste to go out if something's really salty. Think about this, when people eat Jolly Ranchers and pickles. People want those, or peppermints and pickles where it's minty and sweet. People like that. And some people especially want chips and a soda. Those are things that people put together. They don't be like, give me some chips and a water. Not many people are doing that. Maybe more because water has been pushed, which is important. But most people are eating salty foods with a sugary drink, which is going to bring high blood pressure and diabetes into a culmination, bringing you metabolic disease, where you have comorbidities, making you more at risk for disease for a lot of things. So excess sodium, which is something, like I said, that is prevalent in the brown, black community. So what's suggested that we should take, because Americans on average take 3,400 milligrams daily of sodium. So how do we look at that? So the AHA, which is the American Heart Association, suggests that people should be taking 1,500 milligrams a day, while dietitians say it could be 2,300 milligrams a day. Let's find a happy medium. But at this point, most people, like I said, most of the sodium that we're getting isn't coming from salt. It's not coming from that pink Himalayan. It's not even coming from that table salt. It's coming from processed packaged fruits, coming from canned vegetables. Those frozen dinners that you get, those have so much sodium in them. Those bags of, like, there was these bags that I ate in college that were Bertolli meals. They had like 1,500 milligrams of sodium for that one package. And that could have been like 2 servings. And actually it may have been for like 1 serving. And that is used, and those are the kind of things that they use to preserve. Salt was also back in the day used to preserve, used to give things life, was used to cured meat. And they're still doing that. And sometimes they're not even using just salt anymore. They're using things such as sodium nitrate or sodium benzoate. Sodium nitrate you will find in cured meats, bacon, things that you like. That's why it's best to find nitrate-free bacon and look at how much the sodium is that they're putting into there. Because some of them will say less sodium, or they'll do salt from this, that, and this. Reading your labels will save your life. And just picking the right foods. You're going to get it remembered. So in baking, so not only do you have salt, but you have baking soda, which is going to be sodium in there. And then some things ask for baking powder. So baking powder has, I think it's a sodium benzoate and sodium, but it's got sodium in it as well, baking powder. So baking powder, salt, and baking soda. You got 3 things with the salt. So that's why you'll find things like breads, rolls, pizza. When it comes to cheese, it's in cheese and the cured meats that you get on your pizza, and sometimes even in the sauce. Snacks, burritos, like I already said, cured meat, eggs. 1 egg alone can have up to 140 milligrams. 50 grams of celery can have 140 milligrams. 60 grams of cooked spinach can have 120 milligrams of salt just by itself. So those things that we have to look at, dressings, when you pick a dressing off the shelf, those are the things we have to look at. And we have to start with, if you go out to eat a lot, get sauces on the side, get things on the side. You can ask them, no salt, don't salt my food. Some of them won't even, depending on where you go. You can ask some of them, don't salt or don't season if it's not a pre-prepared meal, if it's a fresh cooked meal. You can always ask them not to do that. You can always ask them, like I said, dressing, sauce on the side, no sauce. There's different options. A lot of them have the nutrition, and you can see what the nutrition is. And they have certain meals, they'll make specific for you. Cook at home. Sometimes, like right now, what I've been learning is I've like gone out to eat a couple of times, and I've been like, man, I could cook this better. Or I cook it at home, and it tastes better. I'd rather cook at home. And it's just I'm getting more into that vibe of, I think my home cooked meals are sometimes better than some of those other meals out there, or I get what I want and what I need more out of those. And cooking at home, you don't have to use salt. Use fresh fruits and vegetables that you have access to. Canned is not going to be the best option, especially if you're wanting to reduce your sodium. Canned vegetables are highly preserved in sodium and additives that are like sodium. Things like that. You have to watch it with things like soy sauce. So do things at home. Instead of using salt, if you want to use a little pink Himalayan salt or sea salt, that's great. That's fine. Use those small amount. But don't forget the other herbs. Don't forget oregano, thyme, sage, pepper, cayenne pepper, red pepper flakes, spice, cumin, lemon, cilantro, tarragon, sage, coriander, like cinnamon, all these Spices bring so much more flavor where you don't always need sodium, or you need very little sodium. So look at your options. They are out there. There are great recipes that don't always include salt, or you can remove the salt and still get great flavor depending on what you're cooking with and what you're dealing with. Like, don't salt your eggs, just put pepper on them. Since eggs already come with 140 milligrams of salt, what you need salt for? Don't salt your eggs. Especially it's in the yolk part. So don't salt your eggs. If using salt, like I said, try sea salt or pink Himalayan. It's not, neither of them have less sodium than table salts. The thing is that they don't have the binders and the anti-caking agents such as sodium amino salicylate, I can't even say it, or magnesium carbonate. Those things are additives and fillers, and a lot of times those things catch up to us, and those are the things in the preservatives, in the anti-caking and the thickenings that can always give our bodies more of a reaction and our bodies not process those things very well, because some of those are a lot of those are lab made agents, or some of them are, most of them are lab made agents. So your body cannot, sometimes not always, process those things, whether you have those elements in your body. Lab-made things is going to be a little bit different than something that's a natural preservative. Your body knows how to process salt. But when you're throwing salt in plus preservatives, there's so much more that can come in. There's also, yes, there's trace minerals in it, but a lot of those trace minerals, they're like potassium and magnesium and calcium, but usually there's not enough to really do anything. But great additive effect, because a lot of times if you're taking sodium, you want to take potassium, have a little potassium with it, because those work well together, and it reduces the actual, what's the word? Not the symptoms, but it reduces probably the negative effects of sodium. So potassium does very well with that. Also watch for other additives. A lot of times I don't use salt, I use Tony Chachere's. I use this, I use that. Well, look at the salt content in those. Read the labels. If it's saying 550 milligrams for a teaspoon, that's a lot of sodium. Watch for things like MSG that you may find in bouillon cubes. Watch bouillon cubes or those flavor cubes. Goya, those have a lot of sodium in them. And people are missing them because they're like, oh, they're quick flavor cubes. Well, you're adding that flavor cubes plus Tony Chachere's plus some more salt. So it's like you're adding more on top of more on top of more. And it's not really, and you're missing that you think it's not salt, but sometimes MSG has more of an effect. And the things in bouillon cubes are going to sometimes have more effect on the body and have a more increased effect and increasing your blood pressure quicker than just regular salt or regular table salt. Also, watch it. Baking soda. Like I said, sodium nitrate is also an additive. Bacon, in cured meats, in smoked meats. Sodium benzoate is also another additive that people use in soy sauce, soda, dressings. Make your own dressing. Y'all think it's hard? All you need is an oil. What is it? An oil, an acid, a spice, and sometimes a sweetener. So make like a quick little dressing. Just squeeze some lemon on your salad. Especially if I have arugula, black pepper, and lemon. That is beautiful on some arugula, because arugula already has this peppery flavor and the lemon just goes great with it. Anyway, things like that. Small things and small changes. Make a dressing with lemon, olive oil, or even like a safflower oil, lemon, olive oil, a safflower oil, cannot say that, avocado oil, any one of those. Add a little salt, add a little pepper in there, maybe a drop of agave or a little bit of sugar that you have, just a drop, not a lot. And some oregano. You got a darn good dressing there. I usually make that dressing. And I actually found it at a restaurant that had it, and they were like, oh, it's just this, this, and this. Throw some garlic in there. You probably don't even need the salt. Those are things that you need to look at. Read your labels. I'll put a label here. So they'll show labels. Most of the time, they'll show your sodium in milligrams. And remember, the percentages are different because the percentages are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Some people eat less than that. Some people eat more than that. So just look at the milligrams that you're eating. Okay, seems like high sodium. Maybe I can find another option. Things like that. Read what other additives are in it. Read the ingredients that are in it. Okay, you've got salts and you've got this and you've got that. And I don't know if they always include the sodium benzoate or everything. Those are usually additives that they should be including when they get the sodium. I think they do include. Also, not just labeling, but watch the wordage. FDA, people in food labeling can be tricky, especially when they're saying, oh, this is low sodium. So low sodium could be less than 140 milligrams. And I'll put those here, the wordage and the verbiage that they have. Very low sodium is probably like 25 milligrams or less than 5 milligrams. I can't remember. And a lot of times when they say, what is it? Not very low sodium or less sodium than, then most of the time it's like less sodium than their original product. So it's based off their product. It's not based off of anybody else's product. It's usually based off their product. So watch for those. Sodium free. Sodium free could be no added sodium, but you're going to get it from sodium benzoate or this, that, and this. No sodium could be less than 5 milligrams of sodium. So we're not going to really always have to put it on the label. If it's so many milligrams, they don't have to put it on the label. So watch the wording. All we need to do is be aware, pay attention. You know me, eat fresh fruit and vegetables. Watch out even with, I know everybody doesn't have access to organic, but wash and clean your vegetables, because even some of the fertilizers and things that they use have some sodium and sodium benzoate and other things in it. So watch those things. This is always easier said than done, but I want y'all to really have the knowledge. So like I say, if we don't know, we're not going to grow. And I'm here to give you that so that you can pay attention to those things. And I'm not expecting you to change it in a day. You may not ever change it, but I want you to be aware so you can teach somebody else, show somebody else, know that what you're up against, because a lot of times we don't want to do things because it's a hard task and we don't want to deal with all that. But if you know the steps to take, that makes it so much easier. And I want to take away the hard part and have you look at things from a perspective to allow this to be easy for you to change your mind, allow you to just jump into it and look at what they're talking about. I know in our community, we don't have access in a lot of places. So that is a part of my job to help us find access, give information, and build access more in our communities. So like I said, if you don't know, you won't grow. And everything is not for everybody, and everybody is not for everything. And so just know your own body. Know how your body reacts to sodium. Pay attention to your taste buds, because your taste buds will tell you a lot of times. Sometimes it doesn't tell you, but a lot of times it'll tell you. But be aware of these things. Be aware of how they tell us to eat, don't eat this much salt or don't eat this much, but it's in the processed and packaged foods that they offer us so much. We have to pay attention to those things, and we have to pay attention to what we intake. So thank you guys for your time. I will see you again. This is going to be Mineral Mondays. It's probably going to be late today because I'm doing this at like 11 o'clock at night. So you might get it Tuesday morning. I'm not going to lie. You're probably going to get it Tuesday morning. But I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I will see you tomorrow.